I think that we have this magnificent wildlife that's just right off the coast here. But yet, if we can engage in nature and spend more time, even if it's local, like the point is you don't have to travel very far to be completely wowed. And I think the more we spend time in nature trying to understand wildlife, the more we possibly can expand our circle of compassion to include all living beings.
Hello, travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Travel with Meaning podcast. I'm your host, Mike Scheibel, and today's guest is no stranger to the show. She's a three-time guest whose journey continues to inspire. The idea for her company, Kinn Traveler, was sparked during a trip to Belize and has since evolved into a movement with a powerful motto of do more than travel. Through initiatives like Every Stay Gives Back and the recently launched Every Adventure Gives Back, Kinn Traveler empowers travelers to support local organizations in communities they visit, creating meaningful, impactful experiences through hospitality and travel partnerships. Help me welcome the CEO and co-founder of Kinn Traveler to the stage, Jessica Blotter.
It's just so good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you, Jess. I know. It's funny. I think a lot of us talk sometimes about seeing people through social media, and then when you see them in person, you're like, that's right, I haven't seen you in like 7 years, but nice to see you in person. Well, let's do this. I gave a brief intro of what Kinn Traveler is, and there's a lot to unpack with you, where the story came from, everything. But I'd love for you to kind of give your side first of what is Kinn Traveler, what you do in this industry, and then we'll kind of unpack everything from there.
Sure thing, Mike. So thanks, everyone, for being here today. We're so excited to talk conscious travel with you. So Kinn Traveler is the first responsible travel platform that empowers travelers to positively impact the communities that they visit. And the way that we do that is through our signature Every Stay Gives Back and Every Adventure Gives Back programs, which ensure that a portion of every guest stay with our participating lodging partners or adventure partners funds local community and environmental nonprofits in the destinations that travelers visit. And the reason that's so important is because studies share that between 71 up to 97% of travelers want their travel dollars to make a positive impact. They want to leave the places that they visit better than before they arrived or better than they found them. But the challenge is in the space is that it can be actually challenging to do that. 50% of travelers find this confusing. A lot of folks will think about voluntourism, but voluntourism might not always be available. It's not, maybe you don't want to do it on your vacation. So by funding these different community and environmental nonprofits, whether it's helping to solve food insecurity or restoring local ecosystems or supporting ocean health or wildlife conservation, travelers can do all sorts of things just by traveling and having this need met through the Kinn Traveler platform. So that's in essence what it is.
Okay. Show of hands, who had heard of Kinn Traveler before today? Okay, awesome. So we're gonna do this. I wanted you to give the overview to start, so people who either didn't know or maybe they knew before had a better understanding. There's a lot to go back to, and the reason I say this is that there was a hole in this industry that you saw, and there's an experience coming up that we're going to get to. But also, there was a big even pivot in your business. And I think for a lot of, how many founders are actually here? Are there any founders? Cool. So this is a great conversation for that as well. So I want to go first with where this came from. And I think the origin story for you and your amazing partner, Sean, is how this really came to be and where did you see Kinn Traveler coming from? Because it's an actual moment.
Yeah. So a little bit of background. I started my career as an earth science teacher. I taught at UCSD Preuss School. And it was really there where I found my heart for sustainability. I went on and joined a media startup and became an associate publisher, drove about $20 million in advertising sales during that experience. but really had gained a really solid foundation working alongside co-founders. And it's actually there where I found my desire to become an entrepreneur. And when I met my partner, Sean, who's in the back here, it was literally our first date where we realized that we were going to start working together, because I had launched a branding company and needed a graphic designer. And I was like, do you want to be my graphic designer? And we literally started working together on our first date. Wow. Sean was an entrepreneur in the surf apparel industry and is also a veteran from Hawaii. And we kind of came together and with this passion for entrepreneurship, but we got to a point where we wanted more purpose. And we loved the travel industry. We started volunteering in animal rescue here in LA. And we were very intentional about wanting to find what that next thing was going to be for us, that we were going to literally commit our lives to. So we knew it was going to be travel. We knew there were these gaps in the industry, but it all came together when we went on this vacation to Belize, and we saw heartbreaking poverty. I mean, we saw tons of plastic pollution. We saw families sort of, living in shacks next to polluted swamps. We saw a lot of emaciated dogs. And we had an experience where we were on a tour bus with other travelers to go, we were heading to go to the Mayan ruins, go caving, sort of do these things you think of. And the bus stopped. It was like the last chance to grab snacks or water at this little convenience store. And these rib protruding dogs approached us. Being animal rescue volunteers in LA, we couldn't just ignore them. So we went in, bought dog food. I was actually surprised that they had some dog food there, but we fed the dogs and looked up, and we saw all these other travelers we were on the bus with also carrying the dog food. And we kind of walked away from that experience where we unintentionally had inspired these others to get involved, and it was not saving the world that day at all. It was just like this little tiny small act of like taking some sort of action rather than ignoring the situation. So when we got back on the bus, the whole sentiment of the bus changed from like this like despairing feeling and sadness to like of hope and even a little bit of laughter. So long story short, we came back, and that feeling stayed with us for a very long time about taking action on vacations and how can travelers give back. We started doing research, and from Expedia to Booking.com and everyone in between, every study shared that between 70 up to 97% of travelers want their travel dollars to make a positive impact. They want to give back. There was this appetite for giving back in the travel industry, but the industry lacked a clear pathway on how to do it. And like I said, a lot of people think about voluntourism, but it has its nuances. And it's not clear necessarily on every trip of how you can do that or want to do that. So that's when we went into research and development mode and came up initially with our very first model of Kind Traveler was a give and get hotel booking platform, which we still have the same mission. We pivoted the model in September of 2023, but in the original model, this is the new model here up on the slide, but in the original model, the donation or impact would only happen if you booked through Kind Traveler. And after doing that for a number of years during the pandemic, our hoteliers came to us and say, we want to scale impact faster. We want to do more for the community. We want to do more. And we, sorry, this is turning into a long story, but I'll wrap it up here. This portion of it, we went into an accelerator program called Blue Startups in Honolulu. We had an amazing mentor in that program. And basically he said, you guys, your special sauce is impact. It's not in competing for bookings in a highly competitive market. Does anybody know how much Expedia spends on marketing every year? It's around $200 billion in just last year. And so trying to be a small fish in a big pond didn't scale the type of impact that we wanted. And so we came up with another way to do it and completely pivoted the model in 2023.
I put the slide on the screen of the impact since 2023. And I wanted to start this conversation up front with where the story comes from, but also I'm glad you went with the pivot, because as a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, startups here, you probably get to that moment at times where you're like, I love what I'm doing. I don't know if this lane is here. I'm competing with everyone else. When your mentor or whoever you're working with kind of has said, like, why are you competing with all these huge OTAs, online travel agencies, the Bookings, the Expedias? Must have been that aha moment of, wow, we love this, but we really want to make that impact. And share that side, but also share like where you're on a very big milestone coming up.
Yes, we're about to hit $1 million in donations in about another month. So we've raised just about $900,000. 100% has been donated to charity in less than 24 months. So this was starting in September of 2023. So we're really excited about this volume of impact. What the other piece of what we do is not just ensure that a portion of the stay goes back. Typically, it's $1 a night from the total booking fee. But what we do is we keep the partners, we keep them transparent. We provide transparency. We keep them accountable to the program. But what Kinn Traveler does is we build traveler-friendly, positive impact dashboards that are shared with guests, so guests can see the exact positive impact of their stay. They can learn about how much was donated with the participating property that they might be staying with. And these are luxury hotels, boutique hotels, glamping sites, even vacation rentals. And we educate the traveler about why this cause was chosen and encourage them to get even more involved with it. Like one example is here in Malibu. We work with the Surfrider Malibu. $1 a night funds the LA Emergency Preparedness Foundation, which is working on fire recovery. And you'll see the positive impact dashboard when you check into that hotel. It's also available via a QR code and a cute little wooden artisanal plaque that we make for every single lodging partner. So we're bringing that authenticity, that transparency, but also that scalability that no one else is doing, and helping destinations meet their sustainability goals.
It's interesting, good segue. And I wanted to put this on the screen. You hit a lot of buckets that I think are very needed in the travel industry, right? From the industry business side of it. But initially starting with wanting to be this OTA and wanting to, give, get. And I used to love to say this about Jessica and Kinn Traveler. They're the first give, get hotel booking platform. And I've always been such a big fan of yours and Sean and what you've done with Kinn Traveler. And honestly, I guess I'd say this. It's fun to watch people who you cheer for. It's fun to watch them evolve and continue to grow. That's something I love to do. So it's really beautiful to hear how you continue to just develop the conversation. But I wanted to bring up these destination partners because now you're actually really able to go even deeper. You're not just looking to book with one hotel. Now your partners, whether it's Visit California or Los Cabos or any of these bigger destinations, now can help put you into the hotels to then give back to the local community of really pinpointing how you can give back and support.
So part of the pivot too was we started working with destinations, and we realized that destinations have many times sustainability and stewardship goals that they are trying to accomplish. And some of them might have a sustainability director, some of them may not. But when we can show them that we can work with their partners, which happens to be their lodging partners, tour operators, adventure companies, we're offering a huge service to fulfill their stewardship goals. And so this is a model that we've been able to build and really scale. We see working with destinations all over the world, but we started with Visit California. We have a 4-year partnership with Visit California.
And we work for 2 seconds because that is an amazing accomplishment. And I have to just stop you.
Sorry.
No, yeah. I want to stop you for a second because people try and get one-off deals. You have a 4-year partnership. And I want you to explain like how that works with all this going, because that's a big deal.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's, we're offering something unique that no other partner is, and we're creating not just sustainability, but a really strong narrative that's authentic with real impact metrics, right? So the impact dashboards are going to tell you exactly the impact of your stay. So whether you're planting a tree or you're helping one marine mammal receive recovery care for one day, or maybe it's helping one family receive meals for 3 weeks. The impact is very, very specific. So we're able to build these measurable impact metrics that become part of the PR story. So it's built on sustainability first, but then it turns into a marketing and PR narrative that influences conversions to the destination. So whether you're in LA, we're working on a fire recovery program. We just signed 10 Marriotts, from JW Marriott to Ritz-Carlton, SLS. They're all involved. $1 a night's funding the Change Reaction, which is another fire recovery program. Or we're, on Catalina Island, we are funding marine mammal care. In Oceanside, we're working on a sustainable agriculture program with the Very Good Food Foundation. Every single destination has its unique set of challenges, but also its unique opportunities to talk about how we're able to make it better and serve that destination.
One thing I want to talk about with you, and you and I were chatting about this the other day, is I talk sometimes about the dictionary definition of travel. Right? I don't know if anyone knows, but it's one of my favorite things. Is the dictionary definition of travel is to go from one place to another, generally over a long distance. And as much as I like to jump on a plane and go places, and a lot of us do, sometimes travel is not about going really anywhere. And it's really also about looking in your own community and staying local and supporting local. And so I think that hits a lot with what you're doing, especially working with Visit California or living in Palm Springs and working with those areas. Talk about how the local impact and local adventures also come together, because you just launched Every Adventure Gives Back as well.
Yeah, exactly. So about 2 weeks ago, we decided to expand the model into Every Adventure Gives Back, so we can work with adventure companies and tour operators. And we launched a pilot on Catalina Island, applying that same exact model where we can work with local, kayak suppliers and scuba diving and snorkeling companies and adventure operators. And so that launched about 2 weeks ago. But through these experiences and working with California destinations, we haven't had to travel very far to feel like we've gone to some really far-flung destinations, but are really in our backyard. I mean, I think, Mike, you and I were talking about a very unique experience I had over in Oceanside recently. So, like I mentioned, we're building the funds that we've raised through this program with Visit Oceanside has helped build a community garden in a local community center, and they invite people from the community. It's free. They can learn how to grow their own food and nurture those plants and harvest the plants. And then at the end, they do a cooking demonstration from the food that they grew. So it teaches people where their food comes from. But the second part of that day, after seeing the impact and participating in that, is we went on a whale. I don't want to call it an expedition. Whale watching. Yeah.
I guess it's whale watching.
Yeah, whale watching. And we were just 5 miles off the coast, and we saw the blue whale, which, Mike, you shared your...
Well, I shared with Jessica, I was obsessed as like a 10-year-old kid with blue whales. And I didn't know how close they were even to us here.
Right. I mean, these are the largest species on the planet, okay? And they're all off the coast, migrating around this time of year, actually. And to put it into perspective, because I think they're really misunderstood animals, we don't realize that the size of its tongue is the weight of an African elephant. Just its tongue. And its heart is the size of a small car. Its heart. And so I think that we have this magnificent wildlife that's just right off the coast here. But yet, if we can engage in nature and spend more time, even if it's local, like the point is you don't have to travel very far to be completely wowed. And I think the more we spend time in nature trying to understand wildlife, the more we possibly can expand our circle of compassion to include all living beings. And that's really like the heart of Kind Traveler. It's not just about the environment. It's not just about the community. It's also about animal welfare and wellness, personal wellness. So we really adopt this sort of holistic picture of conscious tourism and sustainable tourism that looks at everything. And a lot of folks will think, oh, it's just about the climate, or it's not. It's about the community. It's about animals, wildlife. It's so many different things.
And that's when they say they have the heart of Kind Traveler. It's the blue whale heart, right? It's big. It encompasses everything.
Yes.
But so do this as we're, kind of transitioning. We've shared a lot about whether they're adventures or stays, local and other, destinations you work with. How are people also then going to be able to support? Is it going to a hotel that's involved with you guys, or how are they finding this? Like, how are you now going to navigate for our audience here that says, okay, Jess, you have me sold. Like, Where do I stay? How do I go? How do I get back?
Yeah, I mean, simply by choosing to stay in a hotel that participates in Kind Traveler's Every Stay Gives Back program, you're automatically making a difference. And you can see our whole directory is on the kindtraveler.com website. Every hotel also has communication about the program on their website and their guest communication. So, but for now, many of the tourism boards we work with also have communication, of course, on their websites. So that's, simply by choosing to stay. Now, there's always going to be other opportunities to get involved with these different causes, and you can learn about those opportunities by going to the impact dashboards that are available on our website for every single partner. And you can see the impact of each partner, what the dollars do, how else you can get involved, all of that.
And again, really close to this big kind of milestone of 1 million, which is huge. I want to also then, we talked about that impact. I want to talk for a second about being a startup and being a founder. And again, there are a lot of startups and a lot of founders here, but you had the strategic growth and everything really without raising capital. And I want to talk about that from the conversation of, I think you called them like road signs or maps. And like, I know a lot of us and people, especially people in the room who are entrepreneurs, it's that moment every once in a while of like, am I on the right path? Like, what's going on? Like, and how did you, and I want you to share this, whether it's through travel or through experiences, that you reminded yourself, this is the path I'm on, whether it was raising, not raising. Like, speak to that for everyone here.
Yeah. So, when we started, we wanted to get a model to market and prove product market fit, and ideally gain some market traction before we started fundraising. And we spent a lot of time in the pre-launch phase building this OTA that is no longer. And we really wanted to do it very thoughtfully. And I'm going to say we spent a lot of time. We went even back to school at UCLA Extension to take classes where we thought maybe there were gaps, like I want to learn more about philanthropy and fundraising and PR and social media. So actually, Sean and I went back to school and just started taking classes. So we wanted to make sure that we aligned our purpose, passion, and skill sets, number one, before we embarked on this journey, because we knew it was going to be a long road, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to try this idea and see if it works. It was more of a life commitment. It was more of a lifestyle. Like, it wasn't, and it was Sean and I together. And so it was a full commitment. We always have had the intention for fundraising, but when we found ourselves in this competing market going into the pandemic, which would then bring travel to a halt, I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad we didn't fundraise then, because we ended up pivoting the model, and it would have been potentially really difficult to have done that without, trying to scale growth in our original 1.0 version. So now that we've made this pivot and we have some amazing partners and traction in 9 countries, we have partners in 9 countries now. I feel like we've been focusing on how, on becoming investor ready now. And it's taken a long time to get there. We had to go through this pivot, but we would never have gotten to the point of the pivot if we didn't go down this other road first. And I think what we were talking about, the signposts, the guide, I think I call them guideposts. There's been these little guideposts along the way, I call them. And Mike's like, you've been on this journey for a long time, and I have. But there have been these guideposts that have affirmed Jessica and Sean, and the Kind Traveler team, you are in the right direction. Keep going. Don't stop. And some of those guideposts have ranged from, landing over 600 stories in the news media, of course, being extremely validated, like in places like the New York Times, like 4 times. But a couple experiences came about where we were invited to be part of startup pitch events in other countries, in Chile, in Germany, in Switzerland. And those experiences were so affirming from an international perspective. These were definitely some of our guideposts. But like we were in all of these different scenarios. Like I'll start in Switzerland. We were invited to the World Tourism Forum Lucerne, and we were the only U.S. startup that was invited to be part of the pitch competition. And from that experience, we were able to explore the country for about a week or so after. And these places weren't necessarily like top on my list, like I am dying to go tomorrow. But now that I've been there, I can't believe that they weren't. Like these speaker events and pitch competitions, they brought us to places I would have never imagined. I never saw that coming, for sure. In Chile, this was part of the UN WTO, who is like rebranded as UN Tourism, United Nations Tourism. And again, the only American company represented. And then in Germany, a similar situation. It was the Lufthansa Innovation Hub Changemaker Challenge. Again, the only American company. We won second place, and then explored Germany and Bavaria, and just had the most just really unique experiences. But I never thought that Kind Traveler would have brought us in that way to these places.
I think that's the beauty of this conversation, right? With Travel with Meaning, it's these travels that have impacted your life and your career. And I think you and Sean were very focused and so really just, digging and grinding on your initial thought. And the moment you kind of like allowed this other element to come together, you started getting rewarded with, whether they're signs or affirmations of that. That's exciting. I've said this already, I think twice, is that I've been such a fan of yours and Kind Traveler for so long.
Thanks, Mike.
And it's really fun to see how the industry also just reflects on you. And Jess really was one of the first people to call this out, and seeing the hole in the industry as far as like sustainable travel is a buzzword. It's not just the recycling trash can in your hotel room. That's not really sustainable travel, even though some hotels think it is. But you had a model and you were working on it, and it's been really just fun, but also just really exciting to watch you continue to grow within that, even through ups and downs on that. And so looking at these here, I think these are just more of the reminders to the founders here, right? That keep going, find your signs, and find these moments that really continue to shine.
I love that, Mike. And I've also loved your journey with Travel with Meaning. I mean, I've seen Mike's journey. And it's been beautiful. You've evolved so much. And Mike's always brought these really thoughtful conversations to the table that get you to think about travel in a different way. I mean, it's travel with meaning. So obviously there's this alignment with what we're doing and the meaning that you can get out of travel if you're approaching it from that lens of, I want to have a meaningful experience, not just take, like, travel should give back more than it takes. And in 2016, we were one of the pioneers of that thought of regenerative, is what they use today. But but it's been such a journey to keep going on this, and I feel like we're just at the beginning, even though we've been around for a while.
Almost 10 years in.
It'll be 10 years next year.
I say that in such a a wonderful kind of just foundation that you've built, because you still have this wonderful youthful energy and excitement about what you're building. How important do you think it is for the founders, entrepreneurs, people in here to find their travels, to find their ways of whether it's giving back or find their meaning within that?
Oh, it's so important. I always ask to find your meaning or to find your passion. Ask yourself, like, what makes your heart skip a beat, or what makes you cry? You know, when we look at like the things that really bother us, when we look around the world, whether it's like, you know, visiting a local shelter and seeing animals in need, or, you know, listen, there's no lack of causes out there to address in the times that we're living in. So I think it's so powerful when you figure out like what your purpose is, and can you align your skill sets in a way that solves a bigger challenge in the world, and gain even more purpose and fulfillment by uniting the two together. Because for me, it's been a very fulfilling journey, because we've chosen that social impact space.
Absolutely. So what does travel mean to you?
Travel means so much. Of course, giving back more than you take, but also figuring out how your positive impacts can connect back to your why and connect back to your personal purpose. I think that for me, that's what it means to travel with meaning. I mean, I'm a huge animal lover and animal welfare advocate, and so when I can connect those dots, like the blue whale story I shared with you, and then on top of that, knowing that we work with, you know, local nonprofits like the Wild Coast and Oceanside that's actually doing something to support local, you know, oceans and wildlife, like that circle. I don't want to just see the wildlife. I want to support it, you know, or I want to like make stuff better through my travel. So that's
Do more than travel?
I want to do more than travel, and I want to travel kindly.
Well done. Give it up for Jessica Blotter.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Before we open this up to some questions, we're going to do a speed round, because if you've ever listened to the podcast and or seen one of our conversations here at the Kinn, you know I love a speed round because, yeah, speed rounds are fun.
With
Ready?
me. He always does this to me.
Well,
I get like
it's not
I
just you-
get
just-
caught off
it's
guard,
not just you,
and
it's
I'm
everyone.
always in like awkward moments.
I'm good at that, awkward moments. But listen, it's not just you.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to put 60 seconds on the
Oh,
clock.
jeez.
See if I think I got a new timer here, so I think I got this ready.
Does this to me?
You ready? Did you study?
No, I have nothing to study.
I know,
I
it's
have
true,
no
it's true. All right, ready.
preparation.
So we're going to put 60 seconds on the clock starting now. I think.
He's
still
going to
working on
show
it here.
pictures
No,
of
we're-
all these random places,
Oh, it's like-
and then I'm going to
Oh,
look
what?
weird when I don't know.
No, we're going to have to. Okay, your current country count.
I'm sorry, what?
Your current country count.
Like how many people are in the country?
How many places have you been?
Oh, see, exactly.
We can start over. How many places have you been?
He's so weird. I don't count my countries. Like maybe 10, 12, 13.
Place you still want to visit.
Well, I'm going to Fiji in August, and I really want to visit
Place you tell people to visit.
Switzerland.
Window or aisle?
Window.
Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Airbnb or hotel?
Hotel.
Boat or train?
Train.
Kindle hard copy?
Hard copy, sorry.
Sunrise, sunset?
Sunset.
Do you collect anything from your travels?
Artisanal goods.
The thing you need on a flight?
Lavender oil.
Nothing happens here at the end. It's just, wait, we're still going with thing. Best travel lesson?
Pack lightly.
Favorite national park?
Yosemite.
Favorite airline?
Hawaiian Air.
Favorite hotel?
Casa Chameleon in Costa Rica.
Favorite food?
Anything vegan.
Favorite place in the world?
Sean, what's my favorite place? Home. Yes, home. Actually, home.
Well done. Give it up one more time for
Yeah.
Jessica Blotter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. You did
Thank
great.
you,
I know the
Mike.
timer. We're still working out those kinks. Let's open up to a few questions, and then we'll have a raffle and some other awesome things.
Hi, I'm Christina. Thank you for sharing. I have two questions. How did your business be affected by the pandemic, and how is it being affected by what's happening right now?
Yeah, great question. The pandemic, there was a silver lining for us in the pandemic. 2020 is when we applied to be part of an accelerator and got accepted into one. It was a 4-month accelerator. And so we used that time to, rather than focus on growth, we focused on gaps in the business and what we could make better. And it was actually through that experience where we uncovered our pivot that we made. So it was a time of reflection and kind of asking ourselves like how we could do it better. I mean, luckily we received some, pandemic types of funding that got us through it. It was extremely challenging, but during the pandemic is also when I feel like the industry really started talking about sustainable travel, because we all stayed home. And because we all stayed home, there were a lot of reports about nature rebounding, and look at what happens when there's no carbon emissions, and look at how clear the skies are, and look at wildlife rehabilitating. Wow, isn't that beautiful? How can we all be more sustainable? And hi, Nicole. I just noticed you for some reason. And so I feel like the industry started to get on track with sustainable travel. Now, since then, I feel like it grew and grew. And then over this last year, I've seen some folks want to kind of tailor back a little bit on some of their messaging, which I think is extremely frustrating, because for me, this isn't lipstick, this isn't a lipstick service or whatever. It's this is a part of your brand value. This is who you are. This is your DNA to want to create sustainability, whether it's community well-being or helping communities heal or environmental. And when we talk about communities, it's all sorts of things. It's diversity, it's culture, it's fire recovery, disaster recovery. It's all sorts of things. So to see a couple different brands want to scale back some of their messaging, specifically on the community and DEI side, that's under attack, which I think is extremely frustrating, that things so basic as equity and well-being would be challenged. So
I was actually going to ask you, because I feel like coming through the pandemic, there was so much everyone's going to shift and change and our lens is going to be different. I was going to actually really ask you about if you've seen that kind of shift of people starting to teeter back on their initial kind of directions.
The majority, no, but there's always a couple that yes. Okay. So the majority is no. And if you go to other countries, no, not at all. This is an American problem, and this is the majority is staying close to their values that they shaped during the pandemic. It's only been a couple hotels that maybe wanted to not be as promotive about specifically DEI.
Got it. Any other questions?
Yes.
Just wanted to, you mentioned something about taking classes on philanthropy. I'm curious what made you decide to go one way or the other, and if you find challenges in passing purity tests around being involved with nonprofits, the branding, how you were able to be clear on.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So our model, it was very purposeful and intentional that the donations never pass through Kind Travelers. So our model is the hotels make donations directly to the nonprofit so they can receive a tax benefit. What we do is we receive donation receipts. The hotels are required to submit them to us monthly. And we also receive a screenshot of their total nights booked. So that's how we keep everybody accountable and transparent. And we're very clear about that on our website too. And that's how we keep everybody transparent and accountable to that communication around donations. And the money has never passed through Kind Travelers. So that's that's one strategy of how we're able to not face any barriers around funds being, you hear these horror stories out there around, things happening, but because it's always 100% that is donated. Our business model is through membership. So we make our money and keep our lights on through hotel memberships and destination memberships. So our tourism boards, our hotels, our adventure partners, they become members, just like 1% for the planet.
Great analogy with that. All right, last question up front.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this. I really resonate with it because it's something I've always thought about as a traveler. Because travel for me is very spiritual, and I've always wanted to give back. So when Tully actually told me about, today, and I think it's amazing that you're doing this. And my question is, my husband and I, when we travel, we use a platform called Home Exchange.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to know if that's something that's an opportunity to, get involved with.
Yeah.
Because for us, it's like, it's sustainable for us because we can spend longer periods in a place because we're not paying. And we like to integrate into a community, and we are nature lovers too. And I just want to know if that's something you would consider.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I love that. And thank you for coming today and for sharing your spiritual intention with travel. I think that's so amazing. We started with our new pivot, working with vacation rentals, which shares a lot of synergy with platforms like that. So yes, absolutely, we have an opportunity to work with homes and vacation rentals and different platforms. I think as we start to scale, our vision is definitely to be able to adapt this program to all different types of lodging and different types of partnerships, and even share our sustainability data that we're collecting with platforms like Airbnb and Expedia, because they could effectively use that data to influence conversions on their end. And so it becomes a data sharing licensing opportunity for us.
Much more collaboration than it is competition, right? And look at the bigger picture and what that is.
Yeah, because we're uniquely helping these different properties and businesses meet their ESG goals, but also create a traveler-friendly message. So it can be licensed eventually to bigger, OTAs and partners that sell travel.
I love it. Last question back.
All right. Okay, so I'm curious. It sounds like you are heart-led with all your work, and it's why you are in these accelerators and you got the second place or first place multiple times maybe. My question is about the accelerators. Do you work with someone when you get into those programs, or was this just you and your husband just going in and you heart-led and got it?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Yeah, we applied for it, and when the reason we applied is that we saw that they were specifically looking for women-led startups with a focus on sustainability and a focus on sustainable tourism. So we kind of checked off those three things, and that's what made us feel like we were aligned with them. And what they do is they allow you to network with lots of different mentors. Beyond networking, you actually do one-on-one consultations with lots of different mentors, throughout the program. But everybody is typically, and I think this is how most accelerators work, they're typically assigned to one core mentor who becomes your mentor for the entire 12 weeks, and you meet with weekly. Of course, you meet with all the other mentors too and share your product and your challenges and get their feedback and insights. But we had one amazing mentor who actually sold and launched an OTA who was able to give us this insight and say, you light up when you talk about impact. You don't light up when you talk about competing for bookings. So which one is it? And that advice, it stuck with us. It took us years to make the pivot after he said that, but it really it really stood with us.
It's funny that you just said it took years to make the pivot, because after you now describe it and you look at where you are, it makes sense. And I know it's kind of like that, I don't want to say slugfest of getting there, but it's sometimes it's right in front of you, but that's a good pivot. Okay.
Yeah.
First off, Thank you, Jessica Blotter.
Aw,
Let's give it up one more
thanks,
time for
Mike.
Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the great questions.